Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Social Cafe. And before we get started, I need to invite my co host, Deborah. I see you're there. And um, let's see, here it is. Okay. Just for those who are new to Spaces, or if you haven't heard the news on Spaces, we can now schedule and start our Spaces from desktop, which is what I'm doing now.
There we go. Oh, you are? Hello, hello. You
Hi,
are on
Deborah.
desktop, you said?
Yes.
Oh, good. So am I. I thought
Great.
I'd join in. Yeah, I just normally do it on the iPhone, but I thought, no, I'm gonna do desktop this time. We didn't
Well,
even coordinate that. We we're both doing desktop, but we didn't.
but great minds think alike. Isn't that what they
Exactly.
always say?
Exactly.
And it was about time for us to test this anyway and put it through its paces. I tested the whole concept of doing everything soup to nuts from desktop, and our friend, I think you know April Roga, she joined. And I did find one thing that I definitely don't want to make that mistake and do today because it gave an echo. And there is an option to pop out your window, but don't do that if you're a host.
Okay. Okay.
Or if you're speaking, probably even. Because it only happened once because I had popped out a couple times. But anyway, let's get this show on the road.
Gonna say,
Uh,
now you have me curious. It's like the what is it? The curiosity killed the cat or something? I gotta stay away from that one. I'll play later when I
Ye
when I
yeah, don't click on anything.
alright, I can do that. I'll do that. I'll sit on my hands or something. But
Okay, so, yeah, so this is also hello, Neil, thanks so much for also tuning in. Neil and I, Deborah, just so you'll know, Neil and I and a few other pals were hanging out on live stream a few minutes ago, testing out some features over there with the new Ecamm and Zoom integration.
very
But
cool. Hi, Neil.
he's not a speaker yet, and so before I even ask if you wanna be a speaker, but if you do, just go ahead and request, but I'll send you an invitation if you're still around. We actually gotta get started with this show here. Alright, so we talked about monetization for bloggers in the new era, and this is part 2. And if this is your first time coming to Social Cafe, we do these the first Saturday of every month at 3 p.m. Eastern, and you can translate that into your time zone. But we always put all the different time zones, oh, the popular time zones, I should say, in the banner when we're promoting, and we always share that on Twitter. But anyway, so we want to dive deeper into some of these topics. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Deborah, so you can get started. But I just want you to know I do have some stuff prepared for us to talk about.
Oh,
But
good, 'cause I think I'm exhausted. I was preparing, but I knew I'd do this. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna work on this all month." I say that, and then it was like, all week, I have to work on this, I have to work on this, and then, I'm such a procrastinator. Then Friday, it's like, you really have to work on this, and then but no, seriously, I was like, I got up at 4 a.m. I was working on it yesterday, but I got up at 4 a.m. and like, I wanna do some more stuff. I wanna think of some more resources, and so I've been cramming since 4 a.m. I'm tired, you know? So I'm really glad that you have some things to add this, but I was cramming in a good way, and I put the rest of it in the article that I promised, so I did keep that promise, and I didn't tweet it out, or I know I'm not supposed to say tweet, post, whatever. I scheduled it, so it just popped up, and I will add that to the nest. If
yay,
anyone's Mhm.
I'm glad you're fluent with Nest posting now.
Yeah, so I will once Miss Eileen starts sharing, I will add that to the nest, but the article actually has all of the things that we mentioned last month, and it has the 2 links. It has the recording and it has today's, so both of those are are in there, and everything that I shouldn't say everything we talk about today. Obviously, Miss Ileane will add that to, your anchor show, I'm sure. So, between all of these links, they'll probably all cross-link to each other. You'll get all the resources that we chat about here today, I would imagine. We'll get you
Yes.
covered. There we
Yeah,
go.
you'll be covered one way or the other. You'll find
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. So, I was listening to last month's recording. It's like it was so interesting listening to all the things you were sharing about, podcast page, and I thought, "Wow, I forgot about that." We did talk about that last month, and all these
Yeah.
interesting things. It's like, "Deb, stop listening. You gotta show up for part 2."
Yeah, yeah, Deb, Podpage. Podpage is called, and I'm definitely that's what I wanna dive into, but you go ahead. I
I
just
said
wanted
it
to make sure
wrong.
I just wanna make sure that if anybody's listening, they're like, "Podcast page," and they're trying to Google it. No, we're not talking about podcast, we're talking about
But see,
Podpage.
that's one way to remember it, is remember it wrong, so you correct yourself, and then you'll remember it right. But, so we had, let's see, I covered the classics, which were, you know, blogging, your basics, the stuff that we were doing 10 to 15 years ago, and we had the advertising, and Miss Eileen shared really helpful information about you're more of an expert as far as the Google, the ad network, all that, so AdSense, stuff like that. We had some that I should know more about with all of my singing jazz and all that kind of stuff, but I actually had not gone into this, and I think I will this next week, but voiceover. It's
Mhm.
under the category of performance, and I really hadn't thought about going out there and seeing if anyone needed voiceovers. Have you heard of Todd Gross?
No, I haven't. No,
He
but I
does
do know
mhm.
our friend, Sue Ann, she has, someone that she interviewed on her, podcast, which is also on YouTube, and they talked about the voiceover, how to make money doing that. But go ahead, tell us about Todd Gross.
Todd Gross, now I forgot what his background was. I think he either did news. Oh, Todd, please forgive me if you're listening to this. Something in the broadcast realm, and he's very gifted. You watch him, he knows how to handle himself on screen, the whole thing. Now he partners with people, a lot of joint venture type things, JV Zoo, Warrior Plus, that kind of thing. So in the affiliate marketing space, and sometimes I think, wow, you were on television doing all this broadcast stuff, and now I'm seeing you everywhere. But he is so gifted. People will hire him to be the spokesperson and voiceover and things like that. And I thought, if he's doing it, there's no reason why someone that has an awesome voice couldn't do it themselves and make some like a side hustle doing voiceover. So there's a couple sites out there that can walk you through that on how to put together your portfolio for voiceover and have yourself, hired out to do that. And I can't believe I didn't think of that because I've thought of doing music for movies, but that takes a lot more work to have a producer find you for music for movies. It's a lot easier in the day and age that we live today to do voiceover, for instance, for a video, a smaller production, and a lot of us are doing those. So, the website voices.com, which is sort of easy to remember, and voice 123, and again, those are in the article as well, the resources list. Both of those have help for people that wanna start out doing voiceovers.
I love that idea, and of course, you'd be a perfect person for that. You do have such a lovely voice and, with all your musical background and everything, that will be great, and you know how to work the mic.
Aw, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna check that one out because I think it's always nice to add any kind of a income stream, and I think that's where we're at. It's an interesting world we live in these days, and it's not like you just pick one and say, "Okay, that's how I'm gonna make, $1,000,000 a year." It's like a creative mix of different streams of income.
Yeah, we definitely have to diversify and, multiple streams of income is the way to go. Um, Today, you know, back in the day, like we were saying the last time, and as you alluded to earlier, we had all these all of our eggs were in one basket. We did our blogs, we had all of the ads on, maybe on the sidebar or on the footer, maybe even links within blog posts. That's when we started getting a little more sophisticated. And, we started diving into affiliate marketing, but still everything was contained within the blog. And it was kind of like, if anything ever happened and your blog went down, that was it. You just,
Oh, yeah.
everything just went out the window. And I think it's because of some of those lessons that we all learned during the time, in the early stages of blogging, that we learned these lessons the hard ways, that, you got to have an email list because you got to make sure you can stay in contact with people. But you also want to diversify not only where your content lives, but the type of content that you're going to produce. And I mentioned before that when I started blogging, I don't know what came over me, but it was like a couple weeks later I was podcasting, a couple weeks later I was doing YouTube. But most folks are not on that trajectory. They usually, it's a few years before they venture out into these other formats. Whereas now, fast forward to today, and now kind of everybody's doing it. Everybody realizes that, yeah, you definitely need to diversify, not only not having all your eggs in one basket of your blog, but you need to be on these different platforms. You need to be on social. You need to have these different formats for your content. And so, Deborah, I sent you an email because I didn't want to ask this question off the top of your, without any warning, even though it's not really a hard question. And I hope you saw the email, but if not, you're just going to be put on the spot here.
All
So,
right. Well, I'm trying to think what email. I know you send me emails, but I'm like, it's not.
well, check your email because I'm going to lead up to
Oh,
it. So
okay.
the last time we had this conversation, I talked about how my very first time earning money online with my blog was with a blogging contest. And I talked about how Google put the kibosh on those blogging contests because they were really just basically people paying for links and all of that. And all those people had to come back and ask to take those links off and all that good stuff. So now my question today, and I'll start with you, Deborah, and then I'll share mine. What is the most recent way that you made money or earned online income? What income stream did you get paid from, like yesterday or the day before that, or whenever you got paid last?
Actually, the most recent was the podcast production, like the work that I was doing for Ann Smarty.
Oh,
I
your freelance work. Great.
Yeah. The only thing is, I stopped doing that. Nothing against Ann. I love Ann. She's great, but the amount of work that I was doing needed a little bit better ROI, if you will. Only because it means that I can't do other work, if that makes sense. I mean, you have to weigh that out, and also health reasons. I mean, you gotta figure out what your time is worth so that you're not taking it away from self-care, you know?
Ah, yeah, and that's very labor intensive. And
Yes,
so,
yes.
yeah, my most recent way was a lot less labor intensive, and that was through affiliate marketing. And that was a nice little affiliate payment that I got from, I guess I'll say who it was, from a StreamYard, who I really am a huge supporter and a fan of StreamYard and how easy it is for people to use. And it's been very consistent. It's like the people that have signed up under me, because it's a recurring model. And that's important for, even if you're as a blogger, and no matter how you're putting out content, if you're going to do affiliate marketing, then you want your best bet is for a model that includes that recurring income. So there's a subscription to something, you promote that thing, and then every time those folks pay for that subscription, you also still get a cut. That's the recurring part. And I know a lot of us take that for granted because we know it. We've been doing this for years, but I never know who may be listening who's just like hasn't really dabbled into affiliate marketing, or maybe they're just new in general. And you just look for that recurring model. So, in a way, it's passive in the sense that, yes, I've done tons of tutorials for StreamYard and talked about them a lot, but recently, I hadn't done a video for StreamYard, but yet that income is still coming in. And so it's at this point, it's a little on the passive side. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that nothing changes going forward now that they're under new ownership. But we won't worry about that because we have other affiliate programs that
Just hope
also.
for the best. That's I just joined their affiliate program, StreamYard. I know that I use other, I use Riverside, but I do like StreamYard and I like what they have to offer. I mean, I think there's perks. I like everybody. What can I say? I love everybody, you know? No, but there's, different platforms have their perks, and I wanna be able to represent them accurately. I'm not gonna put anyone down. So,
Great.
I
I'd
just
like
signed
to
up.
say welcome to Mahmood. We have a new listener. Hello, Mahmood. Thanks for joining. Oh, he just popped in and popped back out. No problem. Okay, so in our last conversation, when we were talking about all these different ways that you can do a blog now, you've got your traditional WordPress and Blogger, Tumblr, Medium, all these other sites. But now, and one that I want to focus on today because we talked about it, but we didn't really go into details about it, and that is Podpage. Podpage, and I'll give you my affiliate link, which is Ileane.link/Podpage. So with Podpage, you think of it mainly for those of us who have podcasts, but actually, you don't have to have a podcast to use Podpage. Now, let me just say up front, of course, it's not free, but it is an alternative to, I think someone who has a podcast may first think of, WordPress or maybe even Squarespace or something like that. But this is far less techy. You have, a much shorter learning curve with Podpage.
It's
And
very
what it will.
intuitive.
Yes. And even Martin, who had joined us last week, Martin Lindescott, last month, I'm sorry, he also uses, or his co-host is the one who actually has the pod page set up. And so I think Deborah, myself, and Martin, we all said pod page at the same time
Yep.
because we love it so, so much.
And Madeline
But
Sklar was the one that told me about it. She just she got me hooked on it.
oh, right. Yes. And I'm pretty sure I heard about her from Dave Jackson. Shout out to my friend Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting. I'm sure that's where I first heard about Podpage. And I want to go into not how easy it is to, get your RSS feed connected if you do have a podcast. But also, one of the ways that I use it is through YouTube. You can connect your YouTube and it will automatically, every time you post a video on YouTube, it will create a post. Now, just to be above board about that, the post that comes with the video is kind of like a secondary add-on to Podpage. So it's a very bare bones, basic post, not a lot of formatting, not a lot of styling. You can't even add extra images to that post. You can add links, but it's very minimal. However, you can also have a blog, a full blown blog, and with SEO features and all of that. If you have I believe it's the pro or the elite level.
I think it is the pro level, which is that's the second level, isn't it? Because I have the pro level and, yeah, they have the blog. Made me wonder why I even have a blog at all. Because I could just do everything with Podpage.
It's funny because I have about sheets of paper in front of me, but the one I don't have is the one with the pricing on it. So I'm sorry, dear listener, you're just going to have to look it up.
Good reason to visit Miss Eileen's affiliate link for Podpage.
Page. Okay, so here's the other thing that's going to bring us right back to that topic, that very first word that's in the title of this show today. And that is the ways that you can monetize with Podpage. And this is the direct features that are built into Podpage. This is, doesn't have anything to do with, you can still do your affiliate marketing, you can still do all other kinds of things, but these are the features that are built in. So one is you can display a sponsors page, and it literally has an interface there where you can, told you I had a lot of papers in front of me, highlight your podcast sponsors on your website. Add your sponsors to your Podpage site and tag them in relevant episodes. Make it easy for listeners to learn about the brands that support your show. And I love that feature. And I think that if your show is sponsored, or even if you're pitching, I don't know why that word, I guess the P didn't want to come out. If you are presenting your show to a potential sponsor, you may also recommend this feature as a way to maybe like the extra that you can offer your sponsor that someone else would not be able to do. And so it gives them more visibility, not just you mentioning them in an episode. And so I am not using that feature currently, but I think that is a good one. So the next one that I want to talk about is pretty simple and straightforward. And this is, we kind of talked about it earlier. Um, AdSense. You can actually add AdSense to your pod page. In fact, I had turned it on, I don't know, for about 5 minutes. And then I realized I don't really want AdSense on here. But if you're getting that kind of traffic, and you just want to test it out, even to see what you can get with it, you can also consider AdSense. Next is the donations and memberships. The donations and memberships. And so what that page looks like is, this is where you're going to add your buy me a coffee page, or if you're using PayPal Me, where people can just directly, support the show. And I do believe that there's also going to be podcasting 2.0 features built in. In fact, I know they are. If someone wanted to give you Bitcoin, and gosh, Martin is always the one who fills us in on all the podcasting 2.0 stuff. Where are you, Martin?
It's like equivalent. I think podcasting 2.0, I right away think Martin.
Right?
Yep.
But it's all built in. All the tags and all of that you need are built into Podpage. So, and that is just simply a line of code that you just, Podpage just gives you a nice little interface, and it says, "Boop, put your thing here," and you just stick it there, and that's it. So, I know when you think about Bitcoin and all that good stuff, it starts. Some people may think it's over their heads, but it's super, super simple with Podpage.
It is,
And
he's been teaching me and finally getting the be able to say Satoshi or whatever that is.
Satoshis.
Whenever it's like, okay, I've been at sending him emails, "Is this it? Is this it? Is this it?" So, yeah, baby steps, finally getting it.
Okay, and so there's 2 more. So this next one is about having a storefront. Now, I've been talking about storefronts a lot in all these social cafes. Been talking about Amazon storefront. Now I have a YouTube storefront. Woohoo! I'm super happy about that. And it requires that someone go and they, make a purchase from another vendor, which would be Amazon or YouTube or wherever YouTube sends them. However, you also, if you have a merch shop, you can also connect that to Podpage. So you could be using Fourth Wall or Spring or Shopify or any of that. You can have that integration there as well. But even if you are just doing a one off, let's just say you made an ebook or you made an audio course or a video course and you have a checkout page. It could be, I don't know, PayHip or many of the other um, platforms that you can easily do that with. I think even Linktree has some type of integration that you can use for that. All you have to do is have that link and it will display up in the menu bar on your pod page, and you'll also have a dedicated page where people can see that they can do PayPal or they can do buy me a coffee or they can visit your store and make a purchase or just a donation. And of course, Patreon as well. So those things are I'm sorry, when I should have said Patreon back when I was talking about donations. And but the storefront is definitely a way that you can earn that affiliate income very easily. And last but not least, you can also have private feeds. So this would be really for my podcasting friends. You can It's all supported within Podpage. So you want to charge a subscription for people to have, private access. And I know for me, I can use that with Patreon. And actually, back when it was Anchor, I had it set up. But now it's I'm sorry, not Shopify, Spotify for podcasters. So I kind of just let it go. I haven't revamped it for in Spotify for podcasters, but it's so many different ways that you can do these private feeds. Even with Apple now, they offer that as well. So I really thought it was important for me not just to say, yes, Podpage is a great place that you can monetize your blog, but I wanted to give you specific examples. And Deborah, I want to know, oh, you're in listener status. I'm so sorry. And it looks like you had to drop and come back. So hang on. Let me invite you again to co-host. And let's see if that worked. If you're having any technical difficulties,
I
okay.
couldn't get the tweet into the nest, so I did it on my phone, and
Ah,
for some reason, my phone caused me on the desktop to no longer be a co-host, so
yeah. I forgot to mention that. And some of the bells and whistles and buttons that were here the first time I tested it are not here, and that's one of them.
because the sharing doesn't work on the desktop.
Yeah, and also the fact that if go onto your phone, it thinks that you left. It thinks that you left the space.
Ah,
even though you're on your phone and your same account. So that's a little bug that they need to work out. And so, yeah, I forgot to mention that. So
hey,
yeah,
I don't
plenty. Hmm?
question for you, and I don't wanna change the subject. I don't wanna go all off into how to handle Twitter, but I do wanna ask you this because I'm concerned about other people running into this. So just a really, really quick sidebar. I ran into a problem on X Space where they did something new during this desktop thing or whatever, where it's like if I even so much as clicked on the X Space after I created it, it started. I mean, I could click on the box, not even on the button, and it started. Did you have that the very first time? Like
Mhm.
2 months ago, I think.
That was last month. Remember I said that
Yep,
something happened buggy and I had to
yep,
reset the link?
yep.
That's why.
That
I was just trying to edit something or I can't remember. I might have been just trying to grab the link. I'm not even sure what I was doing, but I just
exactly.
tapped on it and it started the space.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I learned,
Okay.
nope, never tapping on it again.
I had the same thing about 3 days after that, and I thought, "I bet that's what happened to
Yep.
Miss Ileane," because I was having another space, and it's like, now I'm not touching them, I have to send them to another one of my accounts, and then copy the link with that account, and then paste it somewhere else, and then grab it so that the account that created it never touches it.
Yep.
Okay,
And
right.
and so, I think that while they're working out these bugs and things, I may never even know when it gets fixed because I'm just never gonna touch that again.
I did the
But
same
if
thing.
but if I hear anything, I will be sure to let you know and let all our listeners know. And so, with this transition over into just doing spaces from desktop, which I think is wonderful. And oh, by the way, my friend Neil, who was here, Neil Farrimond, he and I were having this conversation about Spaces not being able to pick the right microphone for him to use when he was using on desktop. So we were trying to troubleshoot that, and I don't think that we were able to do it because actually we were troubleshooting something else over the Ecamm and Zoom integration. So we never finished up with all of the testing all the different things. And so that may be one reason why Neil isn't grabbing the mic right now. But what I'm going to do is to double check because if you had asked me to be a co-host when you came back in, Deborah, I did not see that at all. And so if anyone's had asked me to be a co-host or a speaker, I don't see that. So I'm
Oh, I
just going
didn't.
to Oh, okay. All
I
right.
didn't.
Well, I'm
I
just going
just
to
come
go
back
over
in, and I figured you catch it. You caught it just in time.
Okay, I'm just going to go over and invite you again, Neil. I'm not sure even if you're multitasking or what, but just in case I'm not seeing it. And, as we mentioned earlier, you can't monitor it on your phone because then it kicks you out.
I got all excited when you were saying trying to find a microphone because I thought, "Well, hey, let's talk about that because I'd love to help and discuss different microphones," and that actually is in keeping with our discussion about monetization because there's a couple websites, again, that I wasn't really familiar with that are helpful in monetizing, giving advice. And no, Neil, I wasn't meaning that you have to pay me to give advice on microphones. I'd do that for free.
Oh, yay,
Yay,
come
yay.
off of mute, Neil. Hi, Neil.
Hello. I'm not sure if you can
Now,
hear me or whether this is even working. Is it working?
sounding
Yes,
good.
yes, sounds
Yes.
very good.
Oh, thank you very much. So
Excellent.
nice to be here. Finally, it's working.
Okay, and are we using the Ecamm virtual mic?
We are, just as you left me a few hours ago. I am still using the Ecamm virtual mic and the same setup. It's just that I tweaked a little setting in Chrome and I think it works now. So, yeah, nice to be here.
You
And
sound
hi, Deborah.
wonderful. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you. You sound
No, no problem.
awesome. You
So
sound like,
Neil,
one of the, like, books or something, I can't think what, but, like, you're gonna tell this story late at night and help people that are having trouble sleeping, that they're gonna just calmly go off into this blissful. I mean that in a compliment. It's not coming out like
Thank you very much. No, no, that's fine. I have been known to send a few people to sleep in the past, but for different reasons. So thank you very much.
very
yes,
calming voice.
And very mellow, yes.
Yes.
And also, I'm going to give you a shout out, Neil. I'm not trying to pick on you, but you also have the most calm temperament with helping people troubleshoot and work through their issues and work through their problems. And the folks at Ecamm noticed that right away and was like, yes, we want him on our shows. And
You're
you're
too kind.
amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Neil, just real quick to about this conversation here. We're talking about monetizing for bloggers, but I don't know if you've ever even had a blog or if you have one now.
Um, I've never really had a blog. I started my YouTube channel some time ago and just started doing tutorials and things for people. But recently I've just started looking at podcasting. So I've started a podcast, just a weekly short-term podcast that I was doing originally with my friend Brian. He's had to take some time out at the moment. So I'm currently just doing a podcast, no monetization in that at the moment. Got some affiliate links in there and a few things, obviously, from other services and stuff. But yeah, just at the moment, I'm just doing a podcast and the YouTube channel.
Okay, just a strict. So you're not even using a podcast host. You're just doing the I'll make a playlist, a podcast thing on YouTube.
I'm doing that, but I do have a podcast host now. I was looking at Spotify and Anchor, and I wish I'd joined this conversation a couple of weeks ago because I've just signed up with Buzzsprout for now, but I can always change that. So that's what I'm using as my sort of podcast host at the moment, and that's doing all the relevant syndication. But always happy to change if I'd like to.
Yeah, but Buzzsprout is great, and I do believe they're affordable. Well, really, all the podcast hosts are affordable. I just want to put that out there for anybody who's thinking about podcasting and thinking, "No, I got to pay. It would be free if I did it over here." It's nothing that's going to break the bank, y'all. Okay,
That's a good point.
and and it's cheaper than getting web hosting for your blog. That's for sure. So I have heard nothing but great things about Buzzsprout and I admire them. I've met them at Podcast Movement way back in 2018 or 2017. And since then, have just watched from afar. I've never used Buzzsprout, but in fact, the folks at my day job who, by the way, I was trying to get them to podcast like 15 years ago, but now they have a podcast and it's great. I'm happy they finally did it, not because I said it, because somebody else came along and said it.
You know
That's
what?
okay.
It was you subconsciously. I know it was you, Miss Ileane.
I don't feel no type of way. It's okay. I'm over it, but it's okay. And so they use Buzzsprout. And I see we have another listener here, and I just wanted to say hi. I'm sorry I cannot pronounce your name. It's not using the letters that I'm familiar with. So just wanted to let you know I'm saying hi.
Yes,
And,
welcome.
and yeah, and so anywho, back to these other monetization methods. I know that, oh, yeah, he's throwing us some emojis. So that's wonderful. So, Deborah, I know we talked a little bit about, I think it was either online courses or was it memberships that you have some experience with? Did you have something else that you wanted to add in terms of that?
I did. Before we go there, I'm just in terms of on the topic, we're talking about Neil as far as the microphones and the idea of helping people. Just to throw a couple more in there as far as kind of in the category of consulting and coaching, which all of these things, I mean, they interrelate. It's like you could put them in 3 different categories, and this actually relates to webinars and teaching as well. But under my consulting and coaching category, and again, this is all in the list, the one that the tweet that's in the nest there. There's let's see. I just had it in front of me. Clarity.fm and what's the other one? Coach.me. Both of those sites, I'm not overly familiar with them, but I spent some time looking at them last night. They are opportunities to earn money by giving advice. So if you like places like Quora and and going and answering questions for free or anything, why not check out those sites and see if you can actually monetize your advice? Or like we mentioned, Neil looking for the right microphone or testing the right microphone and what works. Um, you know, start monetizing giving your advice. So that's a couple options as a side hustle, another um, income stream there. And if you wanna take it a little bit further and actually go into, for instance, group coaching, there's a site that I checked out with Madeline, Clarity Flow, and it's
Mm,
not as expensive as some of the other sites. It's not as expensive as my favorite site, which is School. That one's a little pricier, but Clarity Flow is only $30 a month, and it allows you to meet together as a group. So if you wanna do group coaching and you have this coaching program you wanna try out, but you also wanna be able to have one-on-one coaching and you're kind of expanding on what you have as a blogger and what you have on your site, and you think, "Hey, I wanna take these blog posts, turn this into a coaching program, and actually help people." $30 is a little bit more affordable. That's just a little bit more than what you'd pay maybe per month for podcasting. And now if you can get 7 or 8 people also paying you per month and then work on with them on one-on-one, you can expand that and make some money that way. And then we were talking last month about products, mugs or books, or you can also take that coaching program and start monetizing it through products and so forth, and see how they all kinda interrelate. Pretty soon you're jumping into other categories there. And by far, my favorite site, and I know there's a bunch of sites for this, but you could use, like, Thinkific, um, why did I just
teachable.
say thank you, that's exactly man, you are so good at reading my mind because I was like, why is it on my mind? It's not coming out, but Teachable, thank you. Thank you so much. Thinkific and Teachable are excellent sites for courses, but my new favorite is School. It's a bit pricey, but I like it because it brings community into it. So it seems to focus on community first, and then it has the lesson set up, and it's very easy to just go in there Saturday afternoon. You have these lessons already prepared, or maybe you've gone through, for instance, oh, I'm not remembering names. Maybe I should get more sleep the night before on this one, but I'll put the links in there. But maybe you have courses from PLR or something, you wanna expand on them. You can purchase some course PLR, go into School, expand on it, and put it into the course, and you can actually put gated access to your course and then charge a fee for membership. So, for example, you have your school community, and let's say you wanna charge $10 to become a member of the school community. You play up the aspect of the community and the engagement and chatting with each other and having events because you have a calendar, so you can have the events and you're, having all these things going on and so forth, like coming and listening to me babble and listening to the wonderfulness of Miss Ileane every Saturday, and that event's on the calendar. But then you also have this course, and you can have people earn their access into the course. So the course is free, but it's like you have to go participate and you get like 20 points, and then you have access to this course. And then if you get 10 more points, you have access to this course. It's gamified. And by gamifying it, it actually encourages engagement in the community. And by having engagement in the community, it gets the community hopping a little bit more. And then people want to actually join. And they're like, wow, this community is really hot. So we really want to pay money to this person to join their community because it must really be the best thing. And that's how you earn money through School.
I love that. But school is spelled differently, right?
Yep, it's spelled Skool.
Okay, great, great. So you have something set up on there now?
I
Is
do,
it?
I have my
Mhm.
socialcafe.net communities on there, and also my free community, it's health related, but it's, diabeticreal.net, so if you wanna join and you don't wanna pay anything, you can join diabeticreal.net. And I was gonna say I'm not really picky, I'll let anyone in, but I shouldn't announce that on a an X-rays, but Diabetic Real, just like it sounds, obviously
Mhm.
no spaces because it's a domain. Diabeticreal.net is a free community that I've set up. So if you wanted to see how School operates, what the community is, and so forth, you can come ask to join that, and I'll let you in.
Awesome, awesome. Actually, it was so easy for me to come up with Teachable because I used Teachable for a while. I'm actually not using it anymore. And sometimes you just have to just take a look at things and say, am I really going to feel like or am I getting what I want out? There's just so many choices that we have. And a lot of times what I like to do is just pause. So right now, my whole thing about courses is on pause. And Teachable, I was kind of in their early program, so my fees were cheaper. And then the next year they were still cheap. And then they finally said, "No, we got to get rid of these cheap people." And so bye, y'all.
Oh
'Cause
my goodness,
now
really?
you want to go up on my price too? I thought I was special.
Oh,
But no, it's
that's
not.
so sweet.
There's nothing wrong with. I'm not complaining about Teachable because when you have a course set up, it doesn't make sense if you're not going to have students in there that are paying that can cover the cost of the course. And so
Right.
that's what the case was with myself. And I'm blaming myself, not blaming Teachable. And here's the problem with when you're teaching social media because your content gets outdated so quickly. And
Right.
so keeping up with that is definitely for someone who's doing it full time and not somebody like myself who just does it when I feel like doing it. you know,
You had a
thanks.
wonderful course.
Shout out to my day job. Say that again, Deborah.
You had a wonderful course, the YouTube course that you had?
Yeah, it was great, Deborah. Thank you so much. I loved it, and I always got great feedback about it. But YouTube completely changed the interface, and a lot of the tools that I was talking about that were, great for promoting YouTube, they don't even exist anymore. And so I just didn't have time
You'd
to
have
keep.
to rework too much of it to
And there's so many YouTube educators now. Today, if anyone asks me about YouTube, I always refer Nick Nemeth. I just think he's absolutely brilliant and he knows how to talk to the beginners as well as people that are more advanced. And he will take the time with you no matter which of those levels that you're on. And, I just think he's amazing as far as a YouTube coach. And so I always recommend him. There's others that I like as well, like Roberto Blake, but I always, you know, talk about Nick because of what he does every Saturday, hours and hours he'll stay on reviewing people's channels. And I just think that you're pretty amazing to do that. And it's not like he just did that for a few months. He's been doing it for years.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Even before the pandemic, he was doing that. He's still doing it to this day. So anyway, yeah. But if I were to ever have a more evergreen topic, I think I would like to look at the school that you just mentioned because I like to have that little gamification. I
Mhm.
I think that's a good thing to have in a community because even with my Patreon, um, and my Buy Me a Coffee, which is another thing that I want to talk about real quick before we get off. Uh, Sometimes I don't get the feedback that I need,
Right.
in order to develop more content or, to move forward with that. So, yeah, the gamification I think works to bring up the engagement. And once you get the community talking to one another, like people may not ask you questions or respond to the questions that you ask. Like I'll send out or I'll post something and I'll say, "What do you think about so and so?" And you get crickets. It's like, huh? Come on, y'all got to have some thoughts, right? But then you may see later on they're talking about the same topic, but maybe it's the person asked the question differently, or they feel more approachable Hello, aka TGIF. How you doing? They may feel that the other folks are more approachable that are in the group, or it could just be the timing. When
Right.
I posted the question, everybody was asleep because everybody knows that I get up at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. I'm up here posting stuff. And then, depending upon where folks are in the world and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I like that idea of the community part. And I think that does also give people incentive to keep coming back. And, that's one thing that I do see that's lacking in the YouTube um, memberships that you can have on YouTube, because I keep debating about turning those on. I've been debating about it for a year now. And that is one of the things, is the lack of the community. You have to go over to Discord, or you have to set up a Facebook group, or you have to have one of these tools that you mentioned, like the school, or some people use Circle or another platform, to have that community feedback loop. And that's just, to me, something else.
Exactly.
As much as I love YouTube, it's like, well, I just like get YouTube out of the scenario there.
Yeah, the
Uh,
gamification allows somebody else to, it's like you allow other people to build it for you, if you get the right
mhm.
people in there.
Right, right.
So that's
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna send a, speaker invite in case you wanted to take the mic. And, all right, so I said I wanted to talk about Buy Me a Coffee, and Buy Me a Coffee is great because they offer some similar, monetization options that I just mentioned about Podpage. However, you don't have to have a podcast, or you don't have to have a YouTube channel. You could just be a social media person, or you do need to have an audience of somebody who wants to buy you a coffee, and you have to have some way to get information out there, or to offer value in some way that people would want to buy you a coffee. But they also have added in these components that you can have membership, you can blog. I've done a couple of blog posts on Buy Me a Coffee. And, through the time that I've had it, I've been able to, get some feedback and some engagement with people over there. And even the initial, when someone buys you a coffee, or they buy you 5 coffees or 3 coffees, whatever, usually that person will leave some kind of a comment with some kind of feedback. That is also very, very cool to have. So, Deborah, do you have a Buy Me a Coffee page?
I do now. I was actually denied having a page, and I thought, "What did I do wrong? Why am I so undesirable?" And it turns out I had put together something on the wish list, and I kinda did, I think I saw somebody else that did something similar, obviously was not the same thing or they would have been denied, but I'd calculated out, and I don't wanna go all into it because this could be a whole I'll save this for Diabetic Real podcast. In fact, it is one of the scheduled podcast episodes, so, but I'd calculated how much it costs for some of the supplies that I need without
Mhm.
insurance, because it's not unusual for me not to have insurance, and one of the supplies that I need is $700 no, wait, 7,000. Well, whatever, whatever it was, and the
Expensive.
thing is, without it, I'm actually dead, and I don't qualify for, I have a few years on it. I'm not old enough to qualify for the old people. I'm sorry, don't go inside. That's
Oh,
not, what do you call it, Social Security on that one.
senior discount?
I'm sorry, I didn't just say old people, did I? I did. Okay, I apologize. Please, people, forgive me that I am lacking the intelligence to speak correctly. Anyway, um So on the I just simply done the math to show because again, I based this on what would really happen to me without these supplies. It's kind of, let's just put it simply, it's like a diabetic trying to go without insulin.
Mhm.
And so I put it on a wish list with the math. I was trying to be transparent with the math to say, if I and I said, "I have insurance right now, but there's the possibility of not having it, and if I don't have it, this is really what I'm up against." Well, I actually had people contributing, and Buy Me a Coffee said, "We're shutting down your page," and I thought, "What did I do wrong?" I gave the link to actually how much it costs, blah, blah, blah. It's because it's a medical device. It's like I'm dealing
Mhm.
drugs or something.
Yeah, certain things that are restricted, and it's probably in their terms somewhere, but who knows? Who reads those things? But
Oh my
yeah,
goodness,
thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. So they let you, back in? Or
They did.
you
I had no idea. I was asking them, I said, "What did I do wrong?" 'Cause I mean, I'm reading my bio, I'm reading everything, I'm thinking, "Did I accidentally say my name and it was Michael?" Or, because we do business together. Did I use a wrong name and the wrong gender? And, I'm worrying about all the these weird things. I'm thinking, "What did I do wrong?" And then I saw that and I thought, "Oh, no, I wonder if that's what did it." So I just copied it over into my blog as a draft because I'd done a lot of work and looking up the math, and all this stuff. So I just copied it over somewhere else and pulled it off of Buy Me a Coffee completely. And I resubmitted and I was approved immediately.
okay, great, great.
So, I mean, I get it. It wasn't actually them, it was in the Stripe, requirements or something. And they kinda hinted, they said, "You didn't follow the terms." And it wasn't their terms, it was Stripe. It was like,
Stripe. Yeah, and
"Oh, wow, I didn't know."
it's interesting because in the beginning with Buy Me a Coffee, and this is really relevant for monetization, you were able to use PayPal, but PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee, they had some kind of eh, a conflict, and I don't remember the details. Like at the time, it was kind of like, what? PayPal is what everybody has. But and then I thought, well, a lot of people have Stripe, and if you've got PayPal already, right? Getting Stripe is just like signing up for another social media account,
Yep,
except that, you give them your banking details, but it's not that serious, right? If somebody really wanted to show support, signing up for Stripe should not be an issue because Stripe is it's not like they're a fly by night company, you know?
right, right. They're serious banking, that one.
Exactly. And so I kinda got over because a lot of my friends left Buy Me a Coffee when the whole PayPal debacle, I'll call it, happened. But I just want anybody who's listening to this to not, let the fact that they're using Stripe versus PayPal, because we're talking about maybe 3 years ago when they dropped the whole integration with PayPal. And so now they're using Stripe. Stripe probably has different rules and, their terms of service are probably a lot different, and
I get it. I get it
Mhm.
why they the only thing is the way it was worded, it was like I was selling, drugs or
Right,
something, and I
right.
wasn't selling it, I was saying, "I need help purchasing it from a prescription." So, I didn't really break the rules, but
Mhm.
hey, I'm not gonna argue with them because we're kind of, you know we're splitting hairs here as far as the interpretation. I can get how it would just make them freak out that it's like, "What is that? That's a needle in there, and that's a," it's like,
Mhm.
what is that?" So, I don't blame them because 'cause they're a serious bank. I respect Stripe. I respect the rules. I didn't see that before, so, no, I wasn't dealing drugs on the internet. Oh,
So I encourage you all to, sign up for Buy Me a Coffee, check it out. You get the option to also add, your podcast if you want to do a private podcast. You actually can upload audio files. I think there is a limit. You can't go on for hours and hours, but you can upload audio because I've done it, so I know it can be done. And it would just be for your Buy Me a Coffee it could be for anyone who's bought you a coffee in the past. If you want to just do it as a post, which is like a blog post, or you can set up the memberships through Buy Me a Coffee, and you can split out the way, you can have tiered subscriptions. It's very similar to Patreon in that sense. And
Yep.
so, they do a lot of the same things that Patreon does, but when people think about, or should I say, when I think about Patreon, I don't think about the post on Patreon as being like a blog, even though it's almost exact same thing as Buy Me a Coffee. So maybe I should just, throw Patreon in here as well in terms of monetization for bloggers in the new era.
By the way, if anyone runs into the same thing that I ran into on that one, you can still, and I'm not trying to say get around it like you break the rules, but what I posted, I could do that on my blog. So if I've got a community of people that are really actually concerned about that particular issue, if you have a similar thing and you're writing about, hey, I've got this concern, I'm having trouble with this particular thing, you're basically writing about your wish list, if you will, on your own personal blog. And then you can say, but where I'm having my public wish list is over on Buy Me a Coffee, and you
Mhm.
just simply generalize it there to say, and this is my wish list, 'cause the way I had it worded is I would like another year of life, and that was my wish list, was that Deb lives another year, and if people want more information, I don't know that I would link it, but you just let people know that where they can have the detailed information is
Right.
on your blog and not on
Mhm.
Buy Me a Coffee,
Um,
so you're not breaking any of the rules.
Right. Yep. Yep. Well, Deb, this has been a great conversation these last month as well as this month on monetization for bloggers. Our next, let me open the calendar. As I say, our next, I realize I don't have my calendar open. Our next conversation, actually, it's going to be on the first of the month, June 1st. We shall convene again, and between now and then, we'll come up with a topic.
What about funnels? Actually, there's some of these that we haven't covered this go around, but I think they're all covered in that article, so if people can grab that link, they'll catch them all, and they'll catch some in the wrap-ups from these, and a lot of them overlap, because 'cause I'm looking through the ones we didn't cover, but they've all been kind of alluded to at least, so,
Great,
what if
great.
we covered funnels?
Uh, I you would have to take the lead on that, and I would so appreciate it.
I will do that because 'cause I'm actually interested in, and I don't know what we wanna call it, and maybe some of our listeners have an idea and wanna, hey, tweet us a suggestion for the title, but no offense to ClickFunnels, but I'm not ready to pay $300 a month, but I'm thinking funnels, not funnels for the little guy, but inexpensive funnels, or people just starting out as far as affiliate marketing, and how can we put funnels together without having to pay $300 a month, especially when you're starting out with this and you're just learning and you haven't quite, cut through all the ins and outs and so forth, because, I've been working on that, so I have some ideas to help people out on that.
Great, great. That sounds so fun. Well, I thank you so very much for this wonderful conversation we've had today. And I was just looking at this blog post that you have with the resources, and I'm assuming you used AI for that art because it is so cool. I love it so much.
Yes, I did.
All right, great. We'll have to have an episode soon where we talk about our tools that we use. Because I know we've done it before, but things have changed like so much
Oh,
since
yeah.
the last time we talked about AI tools. So we'll have to
Yeah,
revisit that.
yep. Thank you
Um,
so much.
thank
Appreciate
you.
you. Hugs, Miss Ileane.
Hugs to you as well. Let's make sure everyone knows where to contact you, Deborah.
You can find me most places at Social Web Cafe.
Awesome, awesome. And
Right.
I'm at ileanesmith.com. And with that, dear listeners, we will see you in a month. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.